Did Michael Bublé lose a bet to his kids, or did he simply get overpowered? The latest winning coach of The Voice found himself in a unique scenario in a July 7, 2023 TikTok that reminded fans everywhere how obsessed he is with his kids. Ladies and gentlemen, may we present to you the mummified version of the Canadian crooner, courtesy of a lot of toilet paper and 3 very dedicated children. See the TikTok, below. Bublé's hilariously glum facial expression says it all. Sometimes a dad will do anything for his family, even if it means getting wrapped in toilet paper. Bublé has 4 children, Noah, 11, Elias, 9, Vida, 6, and Cello, 2. This mummy prank was courtesy of his 3 oldest children. The words "you can let the kids walk over you" overlaid onto the video sum up the situation Bublé found himself in perfectly, as does the caption, "She keeps asking how we ran out of toilet paper so fast," confused face emoji, #wrapped, #themummy, #poppy, #time well spent. Fans will never know if Bublé suggested this activity, lost a bet, or if his kids executed the perfect toilet paper sneak attack. Regardless, the look on his face is one of silly regret. The children were no doubt thrilled. Pranking your parents is a rite of passage all kids should experience in their lives. Much like fellow voice alum Adam Levine, Bublé and his wife, Luisana Pilato, often hide their kids' faces for privacy reasons whenever they share photos on social media. Michael Bublé reflects on parenthood in 2025 Father's Day Instagram post. The Bublé family celebrated Father's Day on June 15, and the singer took to social media with a heartfelt message about his family. Set to his song "You've Got a Friend in Me," Bublé shared a montage of many special parenting moments he's filmed over the years. There are almost too many sweet moments in the video to keep track of. What else can we say? He's his 4 kids' best friend. Bublé was full of love on Father's Day. "I've played on some very cool stages in my life, but nothing tops being a dad. Happy Father's Day to all the legends showing up with love every day. #Happy Father's Day," he captioned. Michael Bublé never imagined that his morning would start with giggles echoing through the hallway and the distinct sound of toilet paper unrolling at record speed. Yet here he was, standing in the middle of his living room, arms outstretched, as his kids, Noah, Elias, Vida, and little Cello, scurried around him like mischievous elves, wrapping him in layer after layer of fluffy white tissue. It all started when Luisana, Michael's wife, decided to catch a few extra minutes of sleep on a Saturday morning. Michael, ever the doting dad, took breakfast duty and promised to keep the kids occupied. He hadn't counted on their imaginations running wilder than a jazz riff in one of his holiday specials. Noah, the eldest at 10, was the ringleader. "Dad, stand still. We're turning you into a mummy," he'd announced with all the seriousness of a seasoned prankster. Michael, always game for a laugh, especially if it made his children squeal with delight, obliged with a mock-serious nod. "The mummy? Should I moan and groan and drag my feet like in the movies?" Elias, 7, nearly toppled over laughing. "No, Dad. Real mummies don't make jokes." Vida, who at 5 fancied herself the family's creative director, squinted at her dad's half-covered figure and issued strict instructions. "More on the arms, Noah. And don't forget his hair. Mummies have no hair showing." Cello, still too little to wield a roll of toilet paper but old enough to clap and shriek, toddled after her siblings, squealing every time a fresh strand of tissue fluttered to the floor. Michael stood there, carefully shifting from foot to foot as his kids ran circles around him. He peeked at his reflection in the hall mirror and almost lost it. His usually suave self was buried under what must have been 2 whole rolls. Bits of tissue trailed behind him like snowy footprints on the polished wood floor. Luisana, awakened by the laughter, tiptoed into the living room and froze at the sight, her Grammy-winning husband wrapped head to toe like an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, except with kids in pajamas and mismatched socks as his royal embalmers. She whipped out her phone and pressed record. Michael caught her eye through a tiny slit near his face. "Darling, I've been cursed. I must remain this way until someone brings me coffee." "Only coffee can break the mummy's curse?" Luisana played along, her voice barely steady from trying not to laugh. "Black. 2 sugars. Hurry, my time is limited." He droned in a spooky voice, sending the kids into another fit of giggles. Noah struck a dramatic pose. "But beware, Mom. If you do not serve the mummy coffee before sunrise." "It's already past sunrise, genius," Elias interrupted. "Then he will roam the house forever, haunting the fridge and eating all the snacks." Noah finished, ignoring his brother completely. Michael shuffled forward, arms out, letting out his best imitation of a ghostly groan. "Snacks. The mummy wants snacks." Louisana's laughter broke the last bit of composure in the room. She doubled over, phone shaking in her hand as she captured every silly second. She knew this video would never see the light of social media. Some moments are meant to be family treasures, replayed years from now when the kids are too old to remember how they once used an entire pack of toilet paper just to turn their dad into a giggling monster. Finally, after posing for about a dozen photos, Michael dropped the act. "Okay, you little pranksters. Time to unwrap the mummy before he disintegrates and clogs the vacuum." Vida clapped her hands dramatically. "No. We must defeat the mummy." "How do you defeat the mummy?" Michael asked, playing along. "With tickles," shouted Elias, pouncing. In seconds, the kids attacked, shrieking with delight as Michael, still half mummified, collapsed onto the couch in a fit of laughter. Bits of tissue paper flew like confetti as the children declared victory over their monstrous dad. Once the living room looked like a snowstorm had hit it, Louisana handed Michael a steaming cup of coffee. He sat up, hair sticking up in every direction, toilet paper trailing from one ear, and took a triumphant sip. "Ah, the curse is lifted," he sighed dramatically, eyes twinkling at his wife over the rim of the mug. The rest of the morning was spent picking up shreds of paper from under the couch, behind the cushions, and in places Michael suspected he wouldn't find until Christmas. The kids, already onto their next big idea, building a fort out of couch pillows, barely noticed the mess they'd made. Louisana perched next to Michael, scrolling through the photos she'd snapped, each one more hilarious than the last. "You know," she teased, nudging him with her shoulder, "most dads would have just said no." Michael shrugged, a playful grin on his face. "Most dads aren't international pop sensations who double as ancient Egyptian mummies." Louisana laughed and tucked a stray piece of paper from his hair. "You're the best, you know that?" Michael kissed the top of her head and watched their kids argue over whether the pillow fort needed a drawbridge. "They're only this little for a while," he said softly. "If covering me in toilet paper keeps them giggling instead of glued to screens, I'll do it 1,000 times." Later that night, long after the kids were tucked in, Michael scrolled through the day's photos again, his phone now full of blurry shots of 4 giggling children and one very patient, very silly dad. He couldn't help but laugh at himself. Michael Bublé, the crooner, the Christmas king, the charmer in a tux, brought down to earth by the best audience he could ever hope for. Before turning out the light, he posted one carefully chosen picture to his Instagram story, just his face peeking out from the layers, eyes wide in mock terror. He captioned it simply, "The Mummy. Coming soon to a living room near you." Directed by 4 very sneaky kids. Within minutes, his fans were already flooding his messages with laughing emojis and heart reactions. But none of that compared to the quiet, warm moment when he slipped into bed beside Louisana, the house finally calm, the echoes of giggles still lingering in the air. For Michael Bublé, being wrapped in toilet paper by 4 little conspirators wasn't just a prank. It was a reminder: fame fades, stages change, crowds come and go, but the silly, messy, spontaneous joy of family? That's the real magic. And as he drifted off to sleep, he made a mental note to buy more toilet paper. After all, Halloween was just around the corner, and the Bublé mummy might need an encore.